You asked for it and you get it. Your pleas have been heard because these are the best snipers in Enlisted. Finally, the video so many of you have been asking me for is here. I hope it's worth the wait because I've spent so long researching, planning and editing this video. This is a top 22 list, not top 20 as it usually is in other episodes of the series like the ones you can see on screen now. Because, well, there are only 22 snipers in the game and I felt mean leaving only 2 of them out, so... You know, I'm not a mean person, I swear. This list also includes all gold order weapons and premium squad snipers, so it covers everything you could need. But just before we start, be sure to click that subscribe button, ring that bell, and like the video. It helps the channel so much, and you have no idea how much it means to me personally. But if that's not enough, then come on. You already know you're going to enjoy the video, so just click it. It's the right thing to do. We also have our own Discord server with an active community for you to talk about all these tier lists with, link in the description. But without further ado, let's get into it. In 22nd, we have the worst sniper in the entire game. And that title goes to the Mosin M91 rifle with suppressor, only available in Moscow for the Soviets. And funnily enough, it's the only gold order sniper in the entire game right now. And it's last. So I mean, you've got to be crazy to want to buy this thing. This thing can hardly be called a sniper, bro. Just call it a paintball gun. It hardly scratches anyone.
Was that supposed to hurt, Cupcake? Why aren't you crying?
Its damage at 13.8 is by some distance the lowest on this list, the joint lowest rate of fire in this list, a slow reload speed at 3.5 seconds, and only 5 rounds in a magazine. The silencer also does nothing to help the weapon's performance or disguise your shots in game at the moment. It just makes it less powerful. So the silencer is a nerf, in other words. The only reason you may want to use this utter abomination, aside from the fact that it is part of a suppressed set of weapons, which comes with that even worse pistol, is because it has a unique firing sound. But if that's genuinely why you're using this thing, then you've got bigger problems, honestly. In 21st, as in second to last, we have another extremely unique / rare weapon. And this time, it's the wrapped pre-war Kar 98K with scope mount, which you could have received in Moscow or Berlin for the Axis faction. This weapon was a reward from an event a while back, and if you don't already have it, you can't get it. Sorry lads. But that being said, everyone thought it was just a different skin initially to the existing pre-war Kar 98K with scope mount sniper. But you'd be mistaken. The major problems come when you look at its damage drop off, and it really is so bad.
I'm hungry as yo. The f is this? I got the wrong sandwich. I don't want that shit.
Its damage at 100 meters away is substantially lower than the normal pre-war Kar 98K sniper, which we'll come to later in this list, and it gets even worse the further away the target is. Ignoring this, its other stats are actually comparable to many other bolt-action snipers on this list, but because its damage is so important for bolt-action snipers to, you know, be worth anything at all, I physically cannot justify this stupid thing being in the top 20. I mean, you could hit an enemy at only 200 meters away, and it wouldn't even down the enemy, let alone kill them. It's atrocious. The only reason why it's above the Mosin M91 suppressor sniper is because of its short range damage and better reload speed. But there's definitely arguments for either of these to be in last place too. Coming in at 20th, we have a really controversial choice, the Carcano M91 with scope mount. This is a strange pick because it's actually a very late game sniper in the Tunisia Axis campaign, so it might confuse you. But hear me out. If you're one of the suffering loving players who actually bothered to grind out the Tunisia Axis campaign, because let's be real, that campaign is only fun to sadists like myself, then you'll probably remember how cool the optical sights look on this thing. It's so unique and different to other weapons, but it's the 6-round magazine and high 16.3 base damage that puts it ahead of the previous two snipers. Yet, its low rate of fire, which you really do feel, let me tell you, which is what means I cannot put it any higher, as it's the slowest firing sniper in the entire game. But luckily this time, as opposed to the previous two, if you hit someone, it will actually down them or kill them, which is, you know, what a sniper is designed to do. 19th houses the first American sniper on this list, the Springfield M1903A1, available in Normandy and Tunisia for the Allies. You'll normally have used this thing as your first ever sniper if you started with the Normandy Allies campaign, and for good reason you used it first, because it's absolutely shit.
This man has got a set of bollocks on him.
It's got okay damage, not awful bullet drop-off, decent reload speed and fire rate, so nothing really to complain about at this time, but it's just not that good when you look at pretty much everything else on this list. 18th contains a very similar weapon and a variant of the sniper in 19th, the Springfield M1903A4. Whilst the two look a bit different aesthetically, but hardly, to be honest, the only reason why this weapon beats the A1 version is because of its slightly higher rate of fire, around 7 shots per minute higher, which is hardly noticeable at all. Everything else is exactly the same, even the shot dispersion, which I haven't even talked about so far in this video because all the snipers mentioned have the lowest shot dispersion in the game at 0.01. So yeah, the only real reason you should use the A1 over the A4 is if you like large sheets of paper. Get it? Well, apparently Americans won't get it because they're strange and use different phrases for paper sizes. Then how about I speak their language? Let me try again. So yeah, the only reason you should be using the A1 over the A4 is if you are a 1 out of 10. Oh come on, I tried! In 17th, we have the Springfield M1903A6. Nah, I'm kidding, that doesn't actually exist in Enlisted, but now that I've got your attention, you should definitely subscribe to the channel, like the video, and ring that notification bell if you didn't when I asked you in the intro. The buttons are all so close to each other, you hardly have to move the mouse at all, so I'll give you a few seconds. Done. Cool. Because in 17th we actually have the normal Kar 98K with scope mount, available in Normandy, Moscow, Berlin and Stalingrad for the Axis. Now I can't lie, it's basically the exact same thing as the Springfield M1903A4, apart from one thing. It has 0.1 seconds less reload time. That's it! Literally! 0.1 seconds is the difference. Dang dude. It literally should actually be called the Springfield M1903A6 at this rate. 16th consists of the equally very similar sniper, the pre-war Kar 98K with scope mount. Once again, it's almost the same as the previous 3 snipers on this list, apart from one thing. It's slightly quicker to fire than its cousin variant in 17th that we just spoke about. It is puzzling that the pre-war version of this thing is better than the standard version, but hey, just dark flow things I guess. And luckily it does not suffer from that stupid damage drop-off that the wrapped version of this sniper actually did. Aren't you glad you didn't get the wrapped version now? Aren't you glad you missed that event?
I am very sorry and I apologize for the inconvenience of me not giving up.
15th houses the Carcano Mod 38 7.35mm with scope mount sniper, the weapon with the longest name in the entire game, available solely in Tunisia for the Axis. Obviously, the big things that stick out here, apart from its name, lol,
Look at the size of that
are its 6 rounds per magazine, higher than almost all of the others we've seen so far, and one of the lowest reload times too, at only 3.2 seconds. It also has lower than average recoil too, and even though recoil for bolt action snipers doesn't really matter as you have to unscope and adjust the bolt every time after you shoot. Now yes, it does have slightly less damage than the pre-war Kar 98K sniper, but by only 0.2 at every range, so this is something you just won't notice, trust me. In 14th, we finally come across the first Soviet sniper, the Mosin M91 rifle with suppressor. And actually a good sniper on the list, the Mosin M91/30 sniper rifle, available in Moscow, Berlin and Stalingrad for the Soviets. I know what you're thinking, why is it higher than previous snipers when it has a slower reload time, only 5 rounds per magazine, and it's amongst the slowest to fire? But I have the answer for you. It's damage! With 17.2 base damage and still 15 at 200 meters away, you will never have any trouble with killing or downing enemies, provided, you know, you can actually hit enemies.
Because I've been here before, I'm a professional. This is what I do.
It's actually very good damage, especially considering this is the first sniper you unlock for the Soviets in all 3 campaigns you find it in. So you can't go wrong with using this even into the late game. Plus, its firing sound just makes it look powerful, let alone what its stats are. Into unlucky 13 we go. We have the wrapped version of the exact same rifle we saw in the last position, available for the Allies in Moscow and Berlin, but was once again only obtainable during the past events alongside the wrapped version of the pre-war Kar-98K sniper. But you might be glad to know that this wrapped sniper does not have this ridiculous damage drop-off that the other had. That being said, this wrapped version has literally no improvement or change, whether good or bad, upon the non-wrapped version, unlike the pre-war Kar-98K wrapped and non-wrapped versions. So, yeah. I mean, it's only in 13th and not 14th because it looks cooler than the standard version. That's literally all. Like, seriously, they're the exact same, I swear on my life. But if you prefer the unmummified version of this sniper, then you know what, just go for it. Now if you thought 17.2 damage was a lot, then you'll love what's in 12th. The Gewehr 98 with scope mount, only available in Moscow for the Axis faction, has an insane 18.4 base damage. That's literally enough to kill 2 people with 1 bullet. 16 damage still at 200 meters away is also unreal. All of the snipers on this list so far only do that damage at only 10 meters away. I'm a massive fan of this sniper just because of its damage, and I know many people came to the game because sniping feels so satisfying. But if you want to really feel satisfied, then you really need to grind up to unlock this weapon. Now yes, it's not exactly quick to fire, being the second slowest on this list so far, but does have a quick reload time of only 3 seconds, which does actually make up for it. I cannot stress enough how satisfying this is to use, but you do have to be good at aiming because the firing rates can be very punishing if you do miss. So don't miss. Simple as that.
Big man thing, yeah? It's not looking good, bruv.
We're already halfway, pretty nuts, because in 11th we have the best bolt-action sniper in the game, the Lee Enfield No.4 MkI, available in Tunisia for the Allies. It's also one of my favourites in the game, so no bias, I swear. With a powerful 16.1 base damage and around 80 shots per minute, the highest we've seen so far in fire rate, so by some distance it has the highest damage per second stat, which you get by, you know, timesing the 2 together. It might have the worst reload speed we've seen, but only by a few tenths of a second, which hardly matters at all when you've got the whopping 10 rounds per magazine, double what we've seen in almost all of the other snipers on this list so far. It also has low vertical recoil in relation to other snipers and still the best possible shot dispersion in the entire game. It's really fun to use, and in such an open desert campaign like Tunisia where snipers absolutely thrive, you will have so much fun using this thing. From 10th onwards, we've moved on from bolt-action snipers, and now we see semi-auto and fully automatic snipers. And it's also where shot deviation actually starts to matter. Bolt-action snipers all had the lowest possible shot dispersion, but these semi-automatic snipers do not. The worst of these semi-auto snipers is the SKT-40, part of the new Moscow Allies Premium Squad. And because I don't actually have this Premium Squad, mostly because of its absolutely mental price, I can't access its full maxed out stats, so you're just going to have to do the calculation calculations yourself. It's just basic percentages though. Come on, you can do it. But in case you can't, they're on screen for you. It has a decent 13.2 base damage and a great average of 210 shots per minute. Therefore, it has a very high damage per second stat, and the DPS stat is purely why I'm ranking all semi-autos above bolt-action snipers. It also has a very good reload speed of only 2.4 seconds, a good sized magazine, and average recoil, but it does have the worst shot dispersion we've seen so far by some distance at 0.28, which you definitely will notice for the first time. Quite significantly, may I add. So overall it's meh. Better than bolt actions in many respects, but we can definitely do better. Stay tuned for the top 10 snipers in Enlisted. Up next, in 9th, is the Moscow Axis Premium Squad weapon equivalent to the SKT-40, the Sniper Gewehr 41. It has a very solid 14.4 base damage, which is surprisingly high for a semi-auto sniper, and not far away from many of the bolt-action snipers on this list, as well as being higher than the SKT-40, and over 200 shots per minute rate of fire, a 10-round magazine, and 65 and 28 recoil vertically and horizontally respectively also put this sniper as the best we've seen so far. But yeah, it does have the slowest reload speed on this entire list at almost 5 seconds, but that's just kind of a fault of the weapon and partly how the devs haven't fixed the janky reload animation yet on this weapon, so... It also has a 0.03 shot dispersion statistic, which is only a tiny bit worse than bolt action snipers and much better than the SKT, so you won't really notice this at all. But honestly, I hate the reload speed on it so much that it's just not something you'll ever see me using. Or buying, for that matter, let alone the price.
I ain't got that sort of money.
I'm not paying 13 quid.
No.
8th houses the mightily famous American rifle, the sniper version of the M1 Garand, available in Normandy for the Allies. It has the same base damage and fire rate as the Gewehr 41 sniper we just spoke about, but significantly better reload time, which is the main reason it's ahead of it, to be honest. And not because I'm biased against the Gewehr 41 or anything. How dare you accuse me of such a thing?
How dare you!
It has very similar recoil, a lower magazine size, and ever so slightly worse shot dispersion than the Gewehr. But the reload time for me, personally, is so stark that it's just so much more important to me than any of those other things, so I place it above, and nothing to do with my biases, I swear. I swear!
Oh, you betcha, yeah.
In 7th, we have the SVT-40, available in Moscow and Berlin for the Soviets. Now, if you've seen any of my previous videos at all on my channel, then you know I always make a joke out of the SVT-40 and 38 being basically the exact same. However, this time, for the first time, their sniper versions actually have a few differences. Who would have thought?
Who would have thought? Not me.
It has the same base damage, shot dispersion, and fire rate once again as the previous semi-auto snipers, but does have slightly better of a reload time and magazine size. Yes, these differences aren't huge, but neither are the recoil differences, which the Garand slightly beats the SVT-40 on, so it is a trade-off, but in my mind you'd notice the reload time and magazine size much more than the recoil differences, so the SVT comes out ahead. In 6th though, we have the SVT-40's earlier cousin, the SVT-38, available in Moscow, Berlin and Stalingrad for the Soviets. Once again, it has the exact same base damage, fire rate and shot dispersion as the sniper versions of the M1 Garand and SVT-40, but interestingly does have better vertical recoil than both of them too, which does matter for semi-auto snipers much more than for bolt actions because they don't need to pull the bolts back every time and can stay scoping and shooting, but also because it helps to fire even quicker and more accurately because the shot dispersion is noticeable and not 0.01. Yes, it does have 0.1 seconds worse reload time than the SVT-40, but you won't notice this at all, especially when compared to the recoil differences. Therefore, the SVT-38 places above it. It's actually so strange that an earlier version of the SVT beats the later version, but hey, once again, just dark flow things.
Right, what am I seeing there? It's not normal, is it? It's not right.
The better version of the Sniper M1 Garand and SVT is the Axis equivalent, the Sniper Gewehr 43, available in Normandy and Berlin, which comes in at 5th on my list. As always, it has the same base damage and the same fire rate as those, so the DPS is the same, but with a significantly better reload speed of only 2.3 seconds, which is ridiculously low for a sniper. The magazine size is also very solid at 10, but at the cost of some worse vertical recoil, at over 71 vertically in particular. But to compensate for this, it also has slightly better shot dispersion at 0.03, which does make a significant difference over all the other semi-automatic snipers we've seen so far, which have higher than this. And in my opinion, this matters more and is more noticeable than the recoil differences, which you can adjust and get used to, but for shot dispersion, you cannot. Therefore, the Gewehr 43 sniper is my favourite purely semi-automatic sniper, and is also the best according to its stats and my preferences. But if you prefer a different purely semi-auto sniper, then let me know in the comments down below. I'll be quite interested to hear, or you can let us know in our Discord server with a great community to learn things from. Link in the description. Finally, into the top 4, we now see the Soviet Sniper AVS-36, available in Moscow, Berlin and Stalingrad, the first sniper that is fully automatic on this list. So naturally, the estimated fire rate is much higher, but could arguably be the same as the semi-auto snipers we just spoke about, depending on how you use it, and which fire rate you use. But regardless, the DPS you could dish out is much higher than all the semi-automatics that we've seen so far, so that is why it's so high up in this ranking. It has the same base damage as all the previous semi-auto snipers, and around the same reload speed of 2.7 seconds, which is still very good, so nothing stands out there. But the recoil is of quite a good standard. The shot dispersion is the same 0.05 as previous semi-auto snipers, and the large 15 round magazine are the three things which really place this weapon into the top 4. The top 3, finally! And the first of these is the Sniper MKb 42H, available in Moscow and Stalingrad for the Soviets. For the first time on this list, the DPS is not the reason why a sniper comes in ahead of others. I mean, you can all see that the damage is only 9.6 at max level, the lowest we've seen so far, yet the fire rate is the highest we've seen so far. Though, if you average this, it definitely does not come in ahead of the AVS. Therefore, you should be looking at the only 2.4 second reload time, the whopping 30 round magazine, and tiny recoil of 38 and 10 vertically and horizontally respectively, to see why this weapon makes it into the top 3 and gives you multiple chances to kill enemies at some far distance away, even if the damage per shot is lower the further away the enemy is. That being said, the shot dispersion is 0.28, which is the joint highest we've seen so far alongside that SKT-40, so it is noticeable, but you can actually put this thing in semi-automatic mode to raise your accuracy, which to be honest I've never actually done, but now that I noticed you can actually do this, I think I'm actually going to.
What? Nah, I never knew that.
I should also mention that this is one of the only snipers where you cannot remove the scope, which I think is a technique by the devs to try and balance this weapon because it basically is really overpowered. So if you were hoping to use this thing as an assault rifle more than a sniper, then you might run into a few difficulties with that optical scope. In second though, we have what I expect to be a fairly controversial choice, the brand new Sniper StG 44, available solely in Berlin for the Axis faction. But don't you worry, I'll explain why here. Now this thing has the same damage as the MKb sniper we just spoke about, but a slower fire rate, meaning its DPS is actually lower. Plus, it has a 0.2 seconds worse reload time. So after saying these things, you must be thinking, what drugs am I taking to put this ahead of the MKb?
I prefer really not to speak. If I speak, I am in big trouble, and I don't want to be in big trouble.
However, this is made up for by the insanely low recoil, at only 20 vertically and 7 horizontally, which is actually the best sniper for recoil on this list. In addition, it has a slightly lower shot dispersion statistic at 0.27, as well as a very good 30 round magazine. Therefore, it might be slower at dishing out damage than the MKb, but it is so much more accurate and controllable, which is made more significant by the fact it also has a semi-automatic mode, which can help to make you even more accurate. I should also mention that unlike the MKb, you can take the scope off it and use it as a more traditional assault rifle, which means it is so versatile, more so than the MKb, and because of its accuracy you can still use it without the scope as a long-range rifle if needed. Therefore, there's just no reason why the MKb is better than it in my opinion. But what is first? What is the best sniper in the game? Well, you probably already guessed it, to be honest, if you've watched the other videos in the series. It's the FG42-2, available in Normandy for the Axis faction. In basically all of my weapon class reviews, the FG features near the top, if not first, but here, once again, it deserves it. With 14.4 damage, it is as good as any other semi-auto sniper, and beats the other snipers in the top 3, despite being a fully automatic weapon, so it's basically just cheating. It also has the highest rate of fire on this list, meaning its DPS stat is miles clear of every sniper on this list, and it also has a top tier magazine size of 20, amazingly low recoil, and very good reload speed to all qualify this monstrosity of a sniper to be first place. You can even point to the fact that you can take off the scope and turn the FG42-2 into basically just a normal, overpowered as hell rifle, which you can literally put on almost any soldier in the game because it classifies as a rifle. And strangely enough, doing this is arguably the best thing I could recommend you to do, because the rifle itself is a very good long range anyway, if you can aim, without the scope, and you don't really need the scope to hit enemies from far distances, whilst you can also kill enemies in close quarters very easily with a fully automatic firing mode.
That is bloody lovely!
The only things someone could say about it are, 1. Its shot dispersion is by some distance the worst on this list at 0.42, and you will notice this, it's fair to say, but because it's fully automatic you can just spam bullets, and when you hit someone they are instantly downed because of its insanely high damage, that at long range it just makes the second shot even easier to hit because they just can't really escape you. And 2 is, to balance this weapon, the devs have actually given it only 2 magazines of ammo by default, which you will absolutely chew through so quickly. So as soon as you get this thing, you really need an engineer to give your squad ammo boxes or large ammo pouches in the backpack slot, so you can really be the true sniper you guys were always meant to be. But if you guys want to keep binging on this very in-demand series on my channel, then here's the most recent one on the best machine guns in the game. But nevertheless, it's been an absolute pleasure ranting at you guys today. Have a wonderful day, enjoy yourselves, and I'll see you in the next one.